Doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing really good.
You look a little rested there, Coach.
Yeah, it was a bye week. We got as much as we can. We're still getting enough work done to be ready to go this week. Excited about getting back on the grass throwing and getting back to playing some football games.
Great, Coach. Well, health, safety, and overcoming challenges are always those key topics when you're talking to coaches going in and out of that bye week. What was your overarching theme of the bye week last week?
Oh, all of that. I think in totality, we wanted to make sure we kind of front loaded some rest, allow some guys that has been, some lingering bumps and bruises and things like that from training camp on through the first 3 weeks of the season to kind of heal up a little bit. It was a great time for us with the rigorous academics we have here at Howard to have give our guys a chance to get with their professors, get with their advisors, have meetings like that, one-on-one meetings with our coaches and comb through academics, grades, where we're at, and all those type of things, and then get some work done too on the football field and developing some of our younger guys, and then starting a little way segue into Robert Morris. So it was kind of a week of balance for us in a lot of different areas, which are all the key things to winning. So our deal was we wanted to win the week and win the bye week. It meant that here's all the challenges, right? Academics, health, welfare. Some guys, had some mental health counseling going on and different things like that. So a lot of different areas that are key things to winning, especially during this 8 week stretch we got coming.
Okay. Well, from a coaching perspective and specifically on the field, can you discuss what questions were asked and what questions were answered during that bye week?
I think for us it was the idea of just cleaning up some special teams things that we needed to really spend some time on, which gave us some time to go back to some basics, evaluation of personnel, evaluation of scheme, fundamentals, technique. So we went back to the basics from a special team standpoint and did a lot of fundamental work in that area to get some things cleaned up and answered. And then just getting some guys back 100% healthy so we can be as strong as we need to be in our play was a big deal too. And sometimes as a coach, you got to really pause and take a look at the whole thing because our natural instinct, right, is to go to work, go to work, go to work, go to work. That's how you fix it. And sometimes a little bit less is more approach in certain areas can be key for you down the stretch of the season.
Well, looking ahead, this week you return back to the field and you take on Robert Morris, who enters with a 2-2 record after a blistering 46-0 win over Virginia of Lynchburg last week. Can you talk about this pending matchup?
Oh yeah, for us, it's a chance to take the MEAC brand right on the road again against a Big South opponent. And so we want to represent not only the Howard brand very well, we want to represent our conference brand on a national spotlight scene like that. So we get a chance to really go down there and against a really well coached football team. I've worked with Coach Clark before. He's an old Hurricane, and we worked together at the University of South Florida. The team really has his personality as far as their aggressive play defensively, and they do a lot of different things from a schematic standpoint that you better be schooled up on and ready for as their approach is kind of really aggressive, and they do a lot of different things. So going to be a really well-coached football team that's going to play spirited. They're going to play with a lot of energy. That's his personality, and you can see it come through on tape with how hard they play. And then they got a little bit of confidence going. I know they're a program that struggled a little bit last year. He did a really good job this offseason with some transfers and bringing in some guys to help kind of retool and rebuild their roster. And they come out to be a 2-2 team right now. They're playing with a little bit of confidence, and we're going to have to bring our A game on the road here on a noon kick, which is an early game for us to be ready to go. So, but we're excited to go play, and these guys are up for the challenge.
Well, thanks, Coach Scott. That concludes all of my questions this morning. But if I can ask you to remain on the line for any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand function and remain muted until you're called upon.
Our first question for Coach Scott this morning comes from Dr. Cavill.
Good morning, Coach Scott.
Doc, how we doing? Good morning.
I'm doing well. Seems like the open week wore on you well.
Yeah. It was, it was really good in a lot of different ways. So, but truly chomping at the bit to get back to playing. It's not easy to sit home on Saturday and watch all these games and all that kind of stuff. And you start getting anxiety and itchy, and people are wondering why you're pacing around the room or doing all those type of things. Hey, it's game day. It's Saturday, and even though you're off, you're still in that frame of mind. So ready to get back going and get back to playing some football.
Exactly. Besides, that's my responsibilities along with my colleagues. So we don't want you to start trying to take away from our ability to earn a living. With that being said, Coach, let's talk a little bit about Robert Morris before we get back to your team with my follow-up question. Schematically, when you look at the tape, what have you seen specifically in regards to offensively of what they're trying to do? Quarterback Anthony, you alluded to in terms of them throwing the ball around a little bit, but it looks like they want to be balanced. What do you see in terms of the frontline play quarterback from an offensive perspective in this week's game?
Well, first thing you better do is you better have a whole lot of eye discipline. You better be disciplined and lining up, getting lined up. They do a lot of things with a lot of different motions and jet motions and movements and different things like that to get a lot of eye candy to get you off, off your gaps or get your eyes in the wrong place and lose a defense, lose somebody and all those type of things, or create a gap and get people undisciplined and too many guys fit in the same gap and those type of things. So a lot of it is really kind of based foundational things of what they do, but there's a lot of eye candy and different things that you better be disciplined with. And the biggest thing is you better be able to just get lined up. Get lined up, make sure everybody's sound, everybody's where they need to be, playing the right gaps, fitting the right gaps, playing the right coverage zones, whether you're in zone or whatever type of coverage you mean. And when you pressure, make sure you're hitting the right gaps and you guys are disciplined in their rush lanes and doing all those kind of things. They do enough things where it really speaks back to you just better be disciplined on defense, especially with your eyes and not lose your eyes. And I think kind of plays to what they do offensively, right? They mean defensively with all the, line movements and stunts and slants and angles and different things like that, and the different coverage looks they'll give you too as well. So they're kind of a group that have a base foundation of what they do, but a lot of different window dressing and different things that go on around it to try to get you off kilter and get you undisciplined. And so it's going to be a big week to just getting lined up, playing great with our eyes, and doing the foundational discipline things that it's going to take to win this game.
I like that because from the perspective of what I saw watching the Howard Hampton game, you saw that there were opportunities for gaps in there, and late in the game, it seemed like they were able to take advantage of it. And so that makes sense when you're talking about being able to really play with your eyes and see to make sure that you're not leaning too way in one direction, such that those gaps become even larger for offense to exploit. But let's stick with your offensive side of the ball, since you kind of analyze it from both perspectives of what Robert Morris does and what you do on defense. But offensively, your quarterback, Williams, has really been solid for the year thus far in terms of at least what I saw. Talk about how that's coming together. Your quarterback play with your wide receivers, being able to get down the field and make some big plays, but also mixing in the run. Is that the same type of strategy you want to get in this game to be more balanced? Or do you think you can be more effective offensively, either running the ball or with your passing attack?
Well, the thing is, Doc, you don't want anybody to make you cause you to play one-handed, right? Some people try to, their deal is to make you play one-handed and take away one thing and all those type of things. We're going to always, we're going to always pride ourselves in making sure we create balance so that you can't get a beat and those type of things on what we do and how we do things. The objective for us offensively is to always be in a position of dictating to you what it is that we want to do and those type of things. And so we want to make sure we have ways of making sure you can't make us play, like I said, one-handed, right? If you're trying to take away the run, we're going to find ways to still run the ball. If you're trying to take away, you're trying to play different coverages and different variations, we're going to have good base calls that the quarterback can read out, progression through, and make really good decisions, and that's how a lot of how we practice, especially early in the week, Sundays and different things like that. We don't get into the looks that we're seeing in the game. We get into calling some of our base possession passes and different things like that, and giving different coverage looks and variations so that the quarterback can always use his rules, use his keys and progress, progress through what he needs to. So that when you do have the element of getting something that you haven't seen or that they didn't really show on film, the quarterback knows he has home things that he can go right back to, apply basic foundational rules, and be able to have success and distribute the football the way that he needs to. And in the run game, we're just going to always find ways to run it. You're not going to stop us from running the football. I mean, as far as, by your scheme. Now, you may be some physical matchups and some different things like that may not suit well, and we may get beat physically on a block or different things like that. But we're going to find ways schematically to make sure and ensure that we can be as balanced as we need to be. So that we're dictating and not playing, with one hand behind our back.
Thank you, Coach. Jeff, do I have time for a follow-up question?
Yes.
Coach, oftentimes you hear, whether it's in the scholastically, intercollegiately, or professionally, that you want to be physical, particularly at the point of attack. If that is the case for you, and I've heard you talk about being physical or in coaching in general, if that's the case, let me know if you agree with that first. And two, the follow-up question is, what are some ways that you teach your team to be physical? How do you go about that? And if that is the case, are there multiple ways to go about it? Or is there something intentional that you do to create that environment with your team?
Man, I think the intentional part of it is a lot of people confuse when you say physical, meaning like the He-Man approach of running into people as hard as you can, fast as you can, and all those type of things. When we say physical, sometimes physical play is how you strike people, right? How you strike people is taught fundamentally, and those type of things create leverage, playing with great feet, playing with great hands, playing with great eyes, and you move people because you're fundamental, right? You use really good technique, you do all those type of things. That's being physical. And the mental toughness that comes with making sure that not only are you executing your job, but you're doing it fundamentally right. You're doing it with great technique. And that's playing physical too at the end of the day. And the other piece to it is right, you got to recruit naturally guys that are twitchy, that like playing the game from a physical standpoint. They'll put their bodies on the line in certain situations. And then it's your job as a coach to teach them to do that more soundly, right? To do that more safely. And being able to play to their nature and who they are, but doing it in a manner that's safe, for them a little bit. And that's why I always challenge our coaches, man. We talk about in spring ball, FTT being fundamental technique and toughness. So we don't really look at scheme and those type of things. We want to coach really good football from a fundamental standpoint, technique, and just teaching general football. So, that's the focus. And that's when you become, I think, a physically tough team where it looks like you're moving people, you're creating gaps, you're creating seams. And that's because a lot of times it's not how big or how strong a guy is. That's just, the icing on the cake. It's how well he uses his technique and his fundamentals.
Thank you, Coach. Great information.
There are no more questions for Coach Scott.
Thanks for your insight this morning, Coach. Best of luck to you and your team this week.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Howard will travel to Moon Township, Pennsylvania to take on Robert Morris Saturday, September 30th at the Joe Walton Stadium. The game kicks off at noon and will broadcast live on ESPN+. Our next interview is with North Carolina Central head coach Trey Oliver. Good morning, Coach Oliver.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
I'm well.
Well, Coach, we'll get right into it. This week, Walker Harris threw for 5 touchdowns as you guys defeated Mississippi Valley State in the Circle City Classic. Can you recap your team's performance?
Yeah, it was a great trip out to Indy. We've been on the road the last 2 weeks and traveled quite a bit from LA to not Indy, but Circle City Classic was a great event. But offensively, I thought that we played well. We talked about starting off fast, and we scored on the first two possessions, I believe. And defensively, I thought we played well in the first half. And kicking game, we were solid. I thought we improved there. Adrian Olivo hit a career long of 47 yards and had 9 points. So I was pleased with our performance. We had a whole lot of young guys that played. Walker Harris, that was his first start. And like I always say, he's a 1B. I don't ever look at him like he's a backup or a second team guy. Very, very good football player. But we had a lot of young guys that started, 3 freshmen on the offensive line. And then we had a couple of receivers that were banged up and tight end was banged up. So a lot of young guys started and played a lot of reps this weekend.
Well, looking into the stats, Coach, the Eagles averaged less than 5 penalties per game, which is tied at 18 among all FCS teams. How does this stat line attribute to this team's success?
Eagles not going to beat Eagles, and we can't beat ourselves. So we pride ourselves thinking that we have a disciplined program here. Our motto is culture over scheme, and our culture is doing things the right way on and off the field. So, when you see guys doing, turn their gear in after the travel suits and after the game, or, you have 100% study hall attendance, that's a direct correlation to doing the right things on the field. And it's good to see, stuff got chippy again this week. One of our kids got spit on. And, when stuff happens, craziness like that, and you have good teammates that pull you back and you walk away from stuff, that's a sign of a good team. And my coaches have done an outstanding job, and strength coach TC has done an outstanding job as far as pushing our culture in here. And we try to have a disciplined group.
Good. Well, this week you return home to host Campbell, who enter into this matchup at 500 on the season. What are you expecting from this potential game?
This is going to be a physical game. Campbell is a very, very big football team. Offensive line is huge. They look like an NFL team. Very, very talented quarterback. Malik Williams is unbelievable. He can beat you with his legs and makes great decisions with the football. They have a receiver, number 21. I think it's Wilkins. He is a very explosive. He's probably the best one I've seen this year. And it starts up front. You know, they're bigs. You know, both sides of the ball. They're huge and they're physical. Coach Miller's done a great job with these guys, and they're very talented. So their record 2-2. They lost to a good William & Mary team, and they lost to an Elon team that is good also. So we have to bring our A game. Luckily, we're playing at home in the Nest, so our fans will be out here, and hopefully we can pack out the Nest. But we'll be challenged this week. We definitely will.
Sounds like a competitive matchup lying ahead, Coach. Well, thank you. That concludes all of my questions this morning. But if I can ask you to hold on for any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Oliver this morning comes from Dr. Cavill.
This is Kenyatta Cavill with Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Coach Oliver, how are you doing this morning?
I'm well, Doc. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Congratulations on the win this past weekend. I know you got your check boxes, so you got to check it off. With that said, before we get into some real analysis or questions, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the health of Davis Rich.
The health of who?
Your quarterback, Rich.
Oh,
Davis.
yeah, he suffered an injury the third play of the North Carolina A&T game. Fought through it and finished out the game. He won a little bit against UCLA, I think, for the first quarter. But he is day to day. I don't know if he'll be ready for this weekend or not. So he's day to day.
You talked about having a 1A with Walker. How does that affect you in terms of leading up to the week of having one quarterback, your traditional starter, in terms of being day-to-day versus Walker that seems very capable and had a great game against Mississippi Valley State this past weekend?
Well, nothing changes. Nothing will change with the offense. We run the same stuff we do with both quarterbacks. I was excited to see. I hate to see Davies down, but I was excited to see Walker get the start. You've seen him in some late in game when games got out of hand and there was no pressure on him. He was out there managing the game, but when he had the opportunity to go in and start the game against a non-conference opponent in an NFL stadium, in a classic, it was great to see. And he performed about like I expected, and I'm so pleased to him and I'm so proud of him. Doesn't complain. He understands that Davies is our number one guy, but he's definitely ready, and he's been ready. So I was messing with him yesterday, and he was like, "Coach, what I got to do to start?" I put 5 touchdowns up. I need to take Davies' position. So both of those guys over there laughing and joking. They got a great relationship. And we got 2 other guys, Quest Powell and the young fella Josh Jones. So our quarterback room is stacked, and all those guys are more than capable.
To your point, 17 to 28, 263, 5 touchdowns, just for everybody else to get it on the record. Tremendous game. Moving forward, you have Campbell fighting Camels. As you said, they're coming into the Nest this year. You talked about how big they are up front. How do you schematically fence around to not be able to be pushed around because of their girth and their size? And it seems like they like to do more passing out of that. Do you come in looking to do something against that pass versus what they do trying to run the ball?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it's mindset. We can't reinvent the wheel and change exactly what we're doing schematically and put a whole new defense in 3 days. So we don't. I'm not a magician, and Coach Cord is a great coordinator, but he can't come up with a whole new scheme for these guys in 3 days. So a lot of it is mindset, and you got to bite down on your mouthpiece and embrace the physicality of this football game. Passing wise, this guy is a very accurate passer. I think he's about 60-some%, 70% as far as completion percentage. So We've got to do a good job in coverage, and they have guys that can stretch the field. So, but I think the physicality aspect of it all is just pretty much mindset.
Thank you, Coach. Look forward to the game this weekend. We'll be tuning in. Fortunately, couldn't tune in the last one because it wasn't broadcast, but we'll catch you this week.
Thank you.
Dwayne Nash.
Good morning, Coach. This is Dwayne Nash with the Yard HBCU Sports and Hero Sports. How are you?
I'm well, Dwayne. How are you?
I'm good. Last week you kind of touched on it, and it seems to be a common theme throughout the conference this week that this is a game or matchup here where you're looking to get your lick back again potentially for what happened in 2022. How much of that is on your mind when Campbell comes to Durham this week when you face him?
That's every time. And I hate to go back to 22 or 21 and anytime somebody gets me, I want to get them back, and that's just, I guess, the competitive nature of it all. And obviously nothing personal, but, between any school or any team or any conference, anything like that, we just want to represent our brand, North Carolina Central, and our conference, the MEAC, the best of our ability when we play these non-conference opponents. But it's, I'm excited to play Campbell and line up against these guys. And like I said, I have nothing but the utmost respect for Coach Mentor. Does a great job recruiting. And they do a really good job there. But the competitive side of me is, they got us last year. So, we want to get those guys back this year. And again, it's nothing personal and not by any stretch, nothing like that. But we want to put on a good show when we play out of conference.
All right. Thanks so much, Coach, and good luck this week.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next question comes from Ty Miller.
Hey, Coach, how you doing this morning? Ty Miller from the Power News Radio Network and Black College Football Weekly. How you doing?
I'm well, Ty. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. You talked briefly about Malik Williams and Vincent Williams in your pre-speech about Campbell. What made them so tough to defense last year when you played them? When they got you?
They were a good football team. It was a lot going on that weekend. We had the hurricane that came through. We lost power in the hotel, and not to make any excuses, they beat us. They beat us sound, but we couldn't meet Friday night, and the travel was just off. A lot of things were just off, and they got off to a fast start. They got up, I think, 14 up on us real quick, and then we got out of character. We started pressing a little too much, abandoned our ground game, and tried to get back in the game. Merely with the pass. So we should have, and that's coach, and that was my fault. We should have stayed patient, stayed with our game plan, and worked our way back into the game running the football. But we got out of character and pressed a little too much. And I thought that that's kind of where it got away from us. But they beat us pretty bad last year. They did.
And was it more of what they did defensively, stopping your offense, or what, like you're saying, your offense was out of character?
We just didn't play well in all three phases. We did not play well, and it's not an excuse. Why? They did a better job preparing, and they had a better game plan. They were ready to play. We weren't. So I'm not going to harp on last year's game too much. We're a different team. They're a different team, and we'll be focused and we'll be locked in and ready to roll this weekend. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I know you don't want to talk about last year's game because it doesn't really matter, but does anything on that tape give you any kind of help for this game this weekend? Anything on the tape from last season?
No, we saw where they tried to attack us. And, we know what we give up defensively and offensively on both sides of the ball. And we do things like any other team to try to help yourself with the weaknesses or whatever. But we've gone back, reviewed last year's film. I watched that again late last night, and their last three opponents. So we see what they like to do and how they like to attack folks, and they have a great game plan and they do a great job with both of their coordinators. So we'll have to play well, and I think it's just going to come down to physicality.
All right, Coach. Thank you, and good luck this weekend.
Yep, thank you.
Our last question for Coach Oliver this morning comes from James Hill.
Hey, Coach, I hope you and everybody on campus are well. Talk a little bit about Mr. Harris and also the other gentleman. You guys really got out and scored a lot against Valley and what that looked like.
Yeah, Walker, he's a special young man. And when we recruited him, he came up on a visit, and I'll never forget this. We took the recruits to a basketball game, which most schools do. And after the game was about 9:30 at night, and Walker tried to take our receivers out on the field and throw routes and all this other stuff. And I'm like, man, it's a Saturday night at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and these guys about to go on the field and work out. But couldn't do it legally and you know, compliance wise, you know, but it just showed me the type of young man, his work ethic, that he wanted to go throw routes with the receivers, you know, on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock after a basketball game. But he has been locked in since he's been here. Great young man, great to be around. I can't say enough about him. And, you know, I hate that he got the start because somebody got hurt, but I was so happy that he had an opportunity to start, and he showed everybody what he was capable of.
Coach, we know how electric your campus is. Campbell has an opportunity to come in, but they're not Eagles. Just talk a little bit about what you want to see in the mindset as you host a football game.
Well, Eagle Nation needs to pack this thing out. Our folks got to come out, and, you know, we do well on the road. LA was packed. There was a bunch of Eagles up in Indy this past weekend. But yeah, we need to give them that good old Southern hospitality and welcome them into the nest the right way. But I love playing at home, hostile environment. You know, it's tight in here. The bleachers right up on you. So we need our fans to come out early and pack this thing out. But we're looking for a great game, and it'll be a dogfight.
Thank you, Coach. Have a blessed week.
Yeah, thank you.
That concludes all of our questions this morning for Coach Oliver.
Thanks
Thank
again
you.
for joining us this morning, Coach Oliver. Best of luck to you and the team this week. North Carolina Central will host Campbell on Saturday, September 30th. That game will be played at the O'Kelly Riddick Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, and kicks off at 4 p.m. live on ESPN+. Our next interview is with Delaware State head coach Lee Hull. Good morning, Coach Hull.
Hey, good morning.
How are we doing this morning?
Good. How are you doing?
I can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, last week, though not victorious, the Hornets notched its most points of the season against Miami of Ohio. Can you talk about the game?
Yeah. So offensively, I think we're getting better. You know, we put up 20 points. Probably should have scored, you know, a couple more times. You know, we still gotta stop killing ourselves. You know, especially on some of the drives there. So I was pretty pleased with what we did offensively. You know, defensively, you know, we got to stop the run better. Obviously, you know, giving up 466 yards rushing is not good. You know, I don't care if you're playing Alabama. You know, we should not be giving up that many yards. So that's something that we have to, you know, get fixed. And a lot of it is just we missed tackles. You know, we're in place. We're in, you know, in the right gap. We just missed tackle. We missed 20 tackles, and to be a good defense, and to be able to stop the run, you can't miss tackles. And I know they had two really good running backs, two SEC transfer running backs, but still we gotta gang tackle. We gotta find a way to get them down. But I do like where we're going, the trajectory of the team. You know, we're getting better and better each week, and we just got to sew up couple things here and there, and one or two plays here or there. You know, like I said, we probably could have scored a couple more points against them.
Well, Coach, you went right into my next question regarding the run game defense, and suggested that some of the ways that you can do in order to be able to improve upon that. Looking ahead, after having 3 tough matchups on the road, this week you're home, hosting Virginia University of Lynchburg. What are you reviewing with regards to this pending matchup?
You know, basically, you know, we're going to go back to fundamentals, to our base offense, defense, and just tackle, you know, throw, catch, run, block. You know, we got to go back to the basics, and that's where, you know, what we're missing a little bit. You know, not try to do too much dramatic scheming wise, but just run our base stuff, and get back to the fundamentals and techniques of things. So, you know, I know last year, you know, against Delaware State, played them last year. It was 9 points going into the fourth quarter. They were only up by 9. So we just can't have a letdown thinking, hey, you know, play down to our opponents or anything like that. We have to go and have a great week of practice, prepare, like we're playing Miami, Ohio, just get better and better each week.
Well, winning is always important, but is getting a win the primary goal for this team, or are you looking to continue to improve this team and building that foundation?
I think it's both. This week we definitely need to get a win. Being 0-4, we our guys are hungry, so we need that for morale and all those things. So it's important for us to get a win this week. Also for our fan base and stuff to get those guys back rejuvenated. We're playing at home, but also while doing that, we got to get better. Better at the little things, fundamentals, technique. Back to the basic football.
Well, thanks, Coach Hobel. That concludes all of my questions. If I can ask you to stay on the line for any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Hull this morning comes from James Hill.
Hey, Coach, I hope you and everyone on campus are well, Hornets Nation. Just talk a little bit about your quarterback and the offensive side of the football for Delaware State University.
Yeah, Marquis is doing a really good job. Like I said in the past, the more he plays, the better he's going to get, and you can see that he's improving. Each week. With the more reps that he gets. Still, he's got to make a couple throws. That we'd like to see him make. Make a couple checks. Obviously you guys don't see it, but there's a couple times where he made wrong checks or he went the wrong way. He's still learning the offense, but he does bring another dimension because he is a really good athlete. When stuff starts breaking down, he can take off and run, which helps us. Offensively is enough that the defense has to worry about him taking off, and so I like where we're going. With him. Offensively, I think the guys are now starting to learn what we want out of each play. Obviously, us scoring 20 points and it was against our number one defense. It wasn't against anybody else. Cincinnati scored 24 against them, and we probably should have scored, like I said, twice, 2 more times against those guys. So it shows that, they're starting to gel. They're starting to understand, what we want out of our offense and our system that we have. With Marquis and his arm, he has a very strong arm. We have some pretty good receivers. Jordan Hall has done a great job. Waleed showed up. Jordan got hurt and didn't play at the end of the second quarter and the rest of the game. But Waleed stepped up, which was really good to see that. Our tight ends have been playing well, so that gives another dimension there. And our running backs. Obviously we didn't run the ball a lot. Our game plan was to throw some quicks, to run outside. We weren't going to run inside, try to get them running, throw some screens, try them out. So we did. We executed what our plan was, to do with them. So I think that was a very positive for us.
Coach, when you look at VUL and their young quarterback, CJ Brooks, what are you seeing in him, and what are you seeing in VUL on tape so far?
Yeah, I mean they're a team that we can't let them get confidence. Like I said, last year against Delaware State, going into the fourth quarter, Delaware State was only up nine points. So their team is like, if he gets going and you give him time to throw the ball, he's a pretty good passer. They got a couple pretty good receivers. So the challenges for us is to try to jump on them quickly and not let them stay in the game. Because if you let any opponent stay in the game, in the fourth quarter, anything can happen. So this game, like I said, they said we just want to get back to basic. It's all about us. This game, us doing what we need to do to get better, to improve, and just getting back to the basic stuff and tackling, catching, blocking, all those things.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed week.
All right, thank you. You too. Have a blessed week.
Our next question comes from Dr. Cavill.
It's Kenyatta Cavill. Dr. Cavill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Coach Hall, how you doing this morning?
Good. How you doing, Doctor?
I'm doing well, doing well. I want to talk a little bit about that connection between Adams and Wally. Wally seemed to kind of have a breakout game, 4 receptions, 125 yards. Quarterback, you spoke a little bit about his maturation, what he's doing. What seems to allow that connection to work this season, particularly in this last matchup?
Yeah, just getting more reps. Is everybody getting more familiar with the offense and what we're trying to do? Obviously, Wally was a transfer. It's the same thing with Jordan and Wally, both transfer guys. They weren't here during the spring. They weren't here during the summer. So all we have is a fall camp. We didn't know what quarterback we're going to use. So I think the more reps they get together, all the receiving core, we should have Rakeem Smith back this week also. So that's something where we got to get them with Marquis and just start getting that reported with that and the timing down with each other. The more they can play together, the better that connection is going to be, for our passing game.
Follow-up question is against Virginia Lynchburg. Besides the component that you talked about, not overlooking a team, is there such a thing in a matchup like this where you may have the ability to be more athletic or just stronger than another team, and how that can get you out of the schematics of what you want to do in terms of the young men, whether it's offensively or defensively, running the scheme and improving on that schematic play versus just overpowering a team? Is there a concern about that happening, or is that off base?
No, I mean, you're right. There's a concern about that, and I just talked to the offense defensive staff about that just before this interview, where that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to go and say, hey, we can do this, we can do all these new schemes and stuff, and then that now you're in a hole because it doesn't work. We're going to do our base stuff. We're going to run our day one stuff, and that's the biggest thing. Can we execute our base stuff? We got to get better at that. And again, against Miami, Ohio, we did our base stuff, but we, also we had some other little schemes and tweaks and stuff like that. But on this team, every team that you just don't want to over scheme, and you only have a certain amount of time to prepare. It's not the NFL where you got all day. You got 20 hours. You only got a couple hours of practice, 2 hours of practice. So how much can they do and learn in those 20 hours? So you don't want to out scheme yourself, and now you're in a hole because you try to be too cute, too fancy, however you want to say it. So this game for us is all about going back to the basics and doing our day one stuff and executing it at a high level.
Appreciate that, Coach Ho. Good luck this weekend.
Good. Thank you.
There are no more questions this morning for Coach Hall.
As always, thank you for joining us this morning, Coach Hall. Best of luck to you and the team this week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Delaware State will host Virginia University of Lynchburg on Saturday, September 30th. The game will be played at Alumni Stadium in Dover, Delaware. The game kicks off at 1 p.m. and live on ESPN+. Our next interview is with Norfolk State head coach Dawson Odoms. Good morning, Coach Odoms.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Coach. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning. Well, Coach, 350 yards on the ground and 443 yards of total offense as the Spartans defeated Townsend last week. Can you assess your team's performance in the matchup?
Well, exactly. Yeah, I thought we handled the elements and the situation very well. We did have a challenging football team, challenging weather, and these guys are starting to understand that none of that matters. We're still going to kick off, and we have to play at a certain level to reach the kind of experience and outcome that we want, and they understand that. And this young football team is getting better every week. They're competing at a high level. And when you're able to run the ball and you're able to stop the run, you give yourself a chance to win football games. And that's always been the starting point for us as a football program. And we were able to do it on Saturday against a really good football team. And you just take your hat off to our offensive line, who did an outstanding job. Our running backs, we ran 5 or 6 guys, and we're deep at that position. And I think people got to defend us. We got wide receivers, we got running backs, we got a good offensive line. We're talented on the offensive side of the ball, and we still have yet to play up to the potential that we believe we should be playing at. And every week is the challenge. And as we continue to get better, so is this football team. And it's going to be something to see as we get into a stretch of the season where we feel like every team is comparable to the teams that we're going to face week in and week out. So we'll have another tough challenge this week, but I really thought they handled the elements and handled the whole situation like a football team that wants to go out and will themselves to a victory. And that's hard to do when you're a young football team, but we keep saying it. We're getting better, and we're a long way away, but each week we're trying to get better, and our offense put up some numbers that are computer-like, especially when you talk about running the football, and we've been trying to get that running game. So we were excited to see that.
Coach, oftentimes I say, or most people do say, that when someone dominates on the ground, someone has to be blocking. You touched on this a little bit. Can you talk about the play of those beloved big babies on that offensive line?
We got a good group of guys. We got a good group. We only have one senior in that group. And we started a true freshman. So I'm holding true to what I believe. I believe that you recruit them for a reason. When you sat down at the table, you sign them, you ask, can they help us? And the answer is yes, or they wouldn't be here. So we give them a chance to play. And some of them are a little bit more developed than others, but Samuel Estridge stepped in. We have a lineman that's down that will get back. He's not out for the season. He got a little banged up, but them 5 that played, they played. It was a gut check. It was a physical football game, and they had to move people, and they did an outstanding job, from Garrison Wheatley, Barry Franks, Darrell McMillan, VJ Bird, Samuel Estridge. I mean, them 5 guys put the football game on their shoulders and delivered and willed us to a victory and team victory. But you don't rush for those kind of yards without those 5 guys dominating the line of scrimmage.
Looking ahead, you have a familiar foe as you take on North Carolina A&T. What is the focus heading into this matchup?
Well, it's always on us. Just how can we continue to get better each week? They're coming off a bye week. They'll have a new wrinkle. They'll have something we haven't seen. We're going to have to adjust and adapt, and we're going to have to continue to get better with our discipline. And I think as that improves, so will this football team. I say it all the time. When you're trying to win football games, the whole key is don't beat yourself. When you look at the number of penalties that we have, you look at how we're taking care of the ball. Our ball security is good. We're winning the turnover battle, and we're giving ourselves a chance to win football games. And when you do that, it's a good sign. But in order to become great, so that you don't have to play games down to the last second, you have to figure out what's going on with your discipline that's allowing teams back in the game, a play here, a play there. But you cannot question the heart of these guys. You cannot question their will to compete. They're doing an outstanding job. But we need to get polished in some areas and really look at what we're doing overall so that we can continue to execute at a high level. If we do that, we feel like we could be a team as we get into November to be in contention.
Well, thanks, Coach Odoms. That concludes all of my questions this morning, but if I can ask you to stay on the line for any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you are called upon.
Our first question for Coach Odoms this morning comes from James Hill.
Hey, Coach, hope you and everybody at Norfolk are well. Talk a little bit about that victory, inspired football. You go into Baltimore, and Otto and the fellas come through offensively, and you play some defense in that game as well. Take us back to Baltimore and what you were able to get accomplished?
Well, when you when you watch the film on, you know there was a very good football team. They was gonna present some challenges for us from what they jump in 4 down, 3 down defensively. Offensively, they get the ball out of the quarterback hands. They got some receivers that can make some plays. Had a very good running attack as we went in, and we haven't been very good against the run. So at some point in time, pride got to kick in, and I thought our football team rose to the occasion, and I felt like it was a great team victory. And you need those. You need that for morale. And I always said the fourth game was going to tell us a lot about our football team, and to go on the road, win in those elements, and play the way we play, and come away with a victory tells you a lot that we're growing up, we're getting better. But the fight's there. I always say, as long as the fight's there, you always gonna have a chance. The talent will catch up, but it's hard when you don't have the fight. And these guys fight. We talk about those 60 minutes, and that's what we're guaranteed. Every Saturday, we're going to be guaranteed 60 minutes. And we're the authors of our story. So what you guys write or talk about is solely based on how we perform. And we understand that. And we're 2-2, and we're still trying to get better. And we got a tough challenge coming in this week, but we're looking forward to it.
Coach, North Carolina, A&T, the Aggies, familiar face. Of course, they've moved on conference-wise, but this is a rivalry, and this is a program that a lot of people in HBCUs know. Just talk a little bit about the Aggies and what some of the challenges they may pose coming in this weekend.
Well, the biggest challenge is getting them off a bye week. I think you look at the film leading up into the bye week and saying this is the football team that you're going to face. You don't know what adjustments or what wrinkles or what are they going to do during the bye week, because you got 2 weeks to prepare and really try to iron out some things that you may have been struggling in, and maybe get some guys back that are not showing up on film. So that's why coming out, I think we're being really base and just keeping things simple until we try to really figure out, what's going on, what's the game plan for that day, because we understand the attack is probably going to be a little different than what we saw on film. But at the end of the day, they're a very good football team. They got some young talent, new coaching change. They're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to find their groove. And we know it's going to be physical. When you play A&T, it's going to always be physical. That's been their trademark, and that's their tradition. So we understand what kind of football we're going to have to play in order to be successful as we get ready to take on a very talented young football team. You can see that they're making some roster adjustments and changing that team from who they were to what they want them to be. And we understand that. We've been through it ourselves. But at the end of the day, they're going to be coming here. They're going to be competitive. They got a few Virginia guys on their team. So it ought to be a good atmosphere. So we're excited about it.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed week.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Dr. Cavill.
It's Kenyatta Cavill. Dr. Cavill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Good morning, Coach O.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Cavill.
Oh, as I was watching the game plan and watching schematically what was going on through the game in terms of the notes and play-by-play, as you alluded to, 350 yards, extremely impressive, particularly when you talk about 6.5 yards, averaging over that 350 yards in 54 plays. But I wanted to ask more about your defense and what they were able to do to slow down Townsend, particularly in the weather, making key plays, key stops throughout the game, particularly in that final drive, to make sure that you got the win at the end of the day. Talk a little bit about how the defense continues to mature, not just from this season, but also going back to last season.
Our communication was better. We got lined up, which helps. And when you do those two things, you give yourself an opportunity to play. We didn't miss a lot of tackles. Our tackling got better. But I think it's just growing. I think it's just understanding that adversity can take a team one or two ways. It can either make you or break you. And if you know my track record, it's one of the better things that I've been able to do as a person, and that's part of my upbringing as a man, is that when things get tough, you got to find a way. And a lot of times that way is opposite of what we all think it should be. And I believe that you love on them more you teach better, you coach better, and you try to figure out a way to get some solutions. And it's not screaming and yelling, it's not pointing fingers. It's always just keeping everybody together and just focus on the things that you did good. It's enough bad things going on. Try to focus on the things you did good and build some morale and some chemistry, and winning helps that. But these guys have a good understanding of what to expect, and feeling that winning feeling, it goes a long way, and just helping us to grow as people is really helping us in this football program. And that's really the biggest thing, is just loving on them and just making sure that we're doing the necessary things on and off the field so that it makes on the field a whole lot easier.
Thank you for that perspective, and thank you for that reminder. With that, moving on to A&T, you alluded to essentially them having the open week, 2 weeks to prepare. As I followed your career, I've seen what you're being able to do after a 2-week layoff, sometimes particularly after a tough loss. Can you talk about, give us a little more insight in game day management in regards to, as you said, being in a base type of defensive offense because you don't know what they're going to do, and looking to make the change in the game. How do you go about that process in terms of your coaches and communication? Could you give us a little more insight of what that looks like from a fan's perspective?
Well, you look at what a team has already put on film, and you begin to analyze and begin to organize your plan of action. And you say, this is what we've seen. And that's sort of what you plan on. You can't really plan for the things that you have not seen. You have to adjust and adapt to those things, but you have a plan in place. And we talk about the adjustments that we may have to make based on what we have not seen. We know what we could possibly get. You look at players, you look at structure, you look at what do they like to do, and you try to focus on certain things. And then you put a plan in place, and they're going to make some adjustments. You're going to have to make some adjustments. Then they're going to adjust again. So that's just a part of the game. But when you're coming off a bye week, it usually gives you an opportunity to rest your football team. And when you rest your football team, you get a healthier football team. You get guys back that you probably wasn't a part of some previous game plans, but now they're a part of this game plan. So you factor in all those things. And when you look at it, you try to make sure that from a strategic standpoint, you give yourself an opportunity to win a football game.
No doubt. Thanks for that perspective. Good luck this weekend. Congratulations on the win.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Cavill.
My pleasure.
Our last question for Coach Odoms this morning comes from Ty Miller.
Hey, Coach Odoms, good morning to you. Ty Miller from the Power News Radio Network.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Miller.
Coach, A&T is averaging 8 points per game. So what have you seen on film about their offense that may give your defense an advantage?
Well, I don't know if it gives us an advantage. They played some really good football teams that have challenged them from a defensive standpoint. And when you play A&T, you gotta be ready for contact, and you gotta be ready to make contact at the line of scrimmage. And if you do those things, you give yourself a chance to win football games. Quarterback, they played a couple guys at that position, and they do something a little bit differently depending on which guys in the game. So you really don't know who you're going to see. So we have to be prepared, make sure our guys have a good understanding. But when it comes down to the Aggies, it's traditionally it's trench warfare. You got to win the trenches, and you got to put that hard hat on and be ready to go to work, because you understand that it's going to be a physicality that is unmatched, and you're going to have to be ready to go toe to toe. And if you're not, then you go get probably one of those physical running games, and we done been a part of that. So we understand what we're facing. We understand what we need to do. Now we got to go execute and do it at a high level, and we got to play at a competitiveness that's like no other. And if we can do that, we give ourselves a great chance to win a football game.
Prior to the break, Coach Brown talked about his team being decent in the running game, but they had problems in their passing game. So how do you make sure that they don't get well against your Spartan defense?
Well, you just got to play. You got to play and execute. But I think from what they put on film, I think anybody would look at them and say, you got to be able to be physical in the running game, and you got to be able to control the passing game. But who knows? They may come out here empty and spread it around. You just never know. So you got to be prepared. You got to have your adjustments in place. But at the end of the day, we believe that in order to win football games, you got to stop the run on one side and you got to be able to run the ball on the other. And if that holds true, we feel like we're going to give ourselves a chance to win another football game.
And final question, Coach. If you looked at the film they played against North Carolina Central, how do you keep from getting ahead, kind of double scouting for when you face the Eagles later on in the season?
Getting ahead is something that gets you beat. So we try to focus one game at a time. We have a good understanding of what our process is. Our process is to go 1-0 every day. All our focus is on A&T, and we're 2-2. We haven't played good enough football to look past Monday, let alone the next game. So we understand that we real about who we are and what we do and how we go about doing it. And we'll have a team meeting today. We'll set the tone for the week. And we know it's going to be about execution and it's going to be about discipline. And if we do those things, we feel like we give ourselves a chance to win against North Carolina A&T.
Coach Adams, thanks a lot and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
That concludes all of our questions for Coach Odoms this morning.
Thanks again for joining us this week, Coach Odoms. Best of luck to you and the team.
Always a pleasure. Behold, the green and gold.
Thank you. Norfolk State will host North Carolina A&T. That game kicks off Saturday, September 30th at the William Dick Price Stadium in Norfolk, Virginia. The game will kick off at 2 p.m. live on ESPN+. Our next interview is with South Carolina State head coach Buddy Pugh. Good morning, Coach Pugh.
Good morning, Patricia. How are you this morning?
I'm well, Coach, and yourself?
I'm good.
Well, Coach, nice way to return back from that bye week as the Bulldogs picked up their first win of the season, snapping a 4-game losing skid against the Citadel. Talk about the win.
Well, you're exactly right. It was a good win for us. Anytime you've been lacking for one for as long as we have, we hadn't won since Central of last year. It's been a long time coming. So we're excited about the fact that we got out and played rather well against the Citadel. The Citadel is struggling too. That staff's starting a new Coach Maurice Drayton and that crew, have got their work cut out for them. They've got a new style of football going. They were an option team, and now they're trying to be more traditional in their style. So it's going to take them a little while. So we caught them at a time that was probably beneficial to our side of things, and we went out and had a good game against them.
Well, Corey Fields returned back to the field, connecting on 9 of 25 passes for 301 yards and 3 touchdowns. Can you talk about the play of the veteran quarterback?
Yeah, I was happy for Corey. He's from down in that neck of the woods, and all of the news agencies and stations and what have you were there to see him play, and got a chance to go back and talk about him back at amongst the home folks. So. He had a good game. He threw it around well. He was somewhere about 75% in the throw game, which is really good for him. And we'd like to think that we can build on his style of play in that particular game in a way where we can see if we can make it happen maybe again a time or two.
Well, earlier in the season, we talked a lot about that competitive schedule, that competitive start to the schedule ahead. The Bulldogs have another bye week. What is the focus heading into the open week?
Yeah, it's almost as if it was a gift from above. We needed to hang in here and try to see if we can develop some of the maybe issues that we've seen them unearth as we go through these first 4 games. We played 3 and had an open week, and we think we got a good bit done getting ready for the Citadel. We'll go the same way. We got Virginia Lynchburg next in 2 weeks. We try to do some preparation for them. Tennessee Tech is out there in the weeds behind them. So we've got our work cut out in a way where we can maybe kind of practice for a couple teams here for the next couple of weeks, and then at that point get ready to start with our conference schedule down the road a piece.
Well, as always, thanks for joining us this morning, Coach Pugh. That concludes all of my questions, but if I can ask you to stay on the line for any additional questions from the media. As a reminder, please use the raise hand feature and remain muted until you're introduced.
Our first question for Coach Pugh this morning comes from James Hill.
Hey, Coach, I hope you and everybody at South Carolina State are well. How are you, sir?
We're good, James. We missed the storm here almost completely, so we got a little drizzle with it, but it was good.
Hmm. Talk a little bit about Corey Fields. He looked like himself in terms of his leg, his foot, and health and strength, and what you're seeing in that young man.
He did. He was back to 100%. Threw the ball really well. Corey is an excellent tactician. He's involved with our offensive staff and planning during the week. So he's a graduate student who's around a good bit during the day, and you can see it in his play, in his understanding of the offensive plan and that kind of stuff. So we thought he had an excellent game, and he's now starting to kind of develop his all-around game a little bit. He had a couple nice runs, which is something that we've been asking him to do over the last year or so. So I'm looking forward to seeing just how far we can get with him, given that style of play for the rest of the year.
Coach Pugh, in the first quarter and the third quarter, South Carolina State University Bulldogs defense shutout, stopping the Citadel. But just talk a little bit about what you guys were able to get done defensively with some of the fellas.
Yeah, it was good for Coach Thomas Howard and his bunch to get some stops. We've been struggling some in our new style of defense, and I can tell you that this guy is a fantastic young football coach, and I'm excited about his stamp on our defensive plan. And as we get farther along in the year, as we get a little bit better understanding of some of the schemes and what have you that we're doing with with our new defensive coordinator, then I think we really got a chance to to turn the tides and get back to being able to stop the run again. But in our league, you gotta, it's two things. You gotta run, you gotta stop the run. I think that's kind of, a down south kind of mentality as we play, this great game we love. And I can tell you that I think he's a great fit for us, and I'm looking forward to seeing just where we can get to, as far as development of the defense as we go through the rest of the season.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed week and a blessed bye weekend.
Thanks, James.
Dr. Cavill.
This is Kenyatta Cavill, Dr. Cavill's Inside, the HBCU Sports Lab. Congratulations on the win, Coach Pugh.
Thanks, Dr. Cavill.
You alluded to your defense, obviously 202 yards everybody's talking about, but holding them to 54 yards rushing, kind of getting back to the style of defense, overwhelming and attacking and really being able to impose your will in a lot of ways on another team. What was some things that maybe were done in the off week to kind of get to that?
Well, I think we're back to the basics more than anything else. When you got a new plan, when you got a new style of play in place, then there's always learning. You can always go back to square one and, work in a way where you get a little bit better understanding of the details of what you got to do that way. So our defense has been traditionally the lead dog in this hunt for most of my years here. And, we said that it's kind of like when mama's sick around the house. When mama's sick, everybody's hurt. It's a tough day. When dad is sick, that people think it's funny. So, this deal with our defense has been a little bit of a concern, and we hadn't been able to stop the run the way we've done and the way we've traditionally done in the past. I think we've got a good group of guys and a good scheme. I think we'll be better as we get down the road a piece.
Following up with that, you also spoke about Corey Fields in terms of him being able to bounce back, really have a big game, particularly being in that area over 350 yards. But in terms of the other players doing their part and, the offensive line blocking so he could get those 50-plus yards rushing. And then your receiving core being able to catch some of those passes, being on the other end. Talk about their play and what they were seeing things come together this week.
Yeah, I'll try. Let's see. Our receiving core had been a little bit broken up for some of the previous weeks, and we got most of them back. Justin Smith-Brown had 2 touchdown passes, caught 2 touchdown balls, which was really a pleasant sight now, because he had been down with a high ankle sprain, and did a nice job of getting his feet in on a couple deep balls that way. And we actually found a tight end that can catch it a little bit. We took a grad transfer guy, Keyshawn Tony. He's actually from right over the river here from us in Williston, South Carolina, that we got from UT Chattanooga, and he's done a nice job of being able to block the edge and to catch the football and do some nice things with the football after the catch. So, we're starting to get some results out of our receiving core and tight ends. Then our running backs are involved some in the passing game also. And we've got, I heard Coach Odom talking about his young running backs. We've got a bunch of young runners. It must be a run on good young running backs that's coming out at this time, because we got about 4 of them. We got 2 transfer guys. Excuse me. We got 2 freshman guys, and we got 2 redshirt freshman guys, but they're all freshmen, and all 4 of them are really good players. And we throw it to them and give it to them and do all kind of stuff to get it in their hands, that kind of way. So those guys are all pretty effective for us. Were pretty effective for us on Saturday. And then last but not least, our offensive front is probably the most experienced group of our returning part of our offensive group. The entire offensive lines, I think, pretty experienced, except for one offensive. I think our right offensive tackle, Moses Umorin, is actually a freshman, a redshirt freshman. But the rest of that crowd has improved a good bit here. Starting with the Georgia Tech game, they struggled a little bit earlier, but they're at the point now where we think they've really got their best games ahead of them. So we're looking forward to seeing those guys continue to come along, because they are pretty good.
Thank you, Coach Pugh. Good luck in your
Doc.
open week as you get back to it.
Appreciate you.
There are no more questions this morning for Coach Pugh.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Coach. Enjoy your open week.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you so much.
South Carolina State is open this week, but will host Virginia University of Lynchburg in their next outing. That game kicks off Saturday, October 7th. Will be played at the Oliver C. Dawson Stadium in Orangeburg, South Carolina. The game kicks off at 2 p.m. and will broadcast on ESPN+.